As a mother and a forensic pathologist, some of the hardest investigations for me are the homicides that involve children. And in this next case, it's a 5-day-old infant that dies under suspicious circumstances. And not surprisingly, it's the autopsy that holds the key to everything.
"19-year-old Amber Taylor has just given birth to a beautiful baby girl. But what should be the happiest time in her life will soon become her worst nightmare. It's 4:30 a.m., and Amber is wide awake, stricken with panic. Her 5-day-old infant, Tamara, lying inches away in the same bed, is unresponsive.
She wasn't breathing, and it was just like a shock. I didn't know exactly what to do, you know, like scream or what.
Amber frantically calls 911. Paramedics arrive within minutes and attempt to revive the newborn. But it's too late. 5-day-old Tamara Taylor is dead.
My world ended. It was like the knife through the heart.
Detective Terry Fuller soon arrives at the trailer home and is immediately disturbed by its filthy condition. Dishes piled up, cobwebs, and clutter. But it's the sight of the baby that stops him dead in his tracks.
The baby was laying in bed on the pillow, on its back, face up, and there was a lot of blood on the face itself. The nose, eyes, eyelids, around the forehead, blood pulled in the eye. As soon as I saw the baby, there was no other doubt in my mind that the baby had been killed. I've been in law enforcement for 17 years, but to see the baby in that condition, you get angry, wondering how anybody could have done this to a 5-day-old baby.
Detective Fuller also has a strong suspicion about who could have killed her.
It was the mother. She was the one that was sleeping with her. She was the one that was in bed with her on that. Nobody else was there. And the type of injuries I saw at that time, all were in a pattern of somebody's fingernails being put over the baby with it being here, here, here. So there was no other doubt in my mind she was my suspect.
And his suspicion only deepens when he sits down to talk to her.
So I go in the living room and confront the mother and notice she's got fingernails.
And there's another disturbing trait.
Surprisingly, the mother is just as passive as she can be. That confused me because I've interviewed a lot of people and there was something wrong.
But a strong hunch is not enough to arrest Amber for murder.
We're going to have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she intentionally and willingly killed that baby.
Crime scene investigators photograph the scene and scour the home for any potential evidence. Detective Fuller then brings Amber down to the station for questioning.
So I said, the baby has injuries on its face. And I said, those injuries had to get there somehow. And I asked her, okay, in your opinion, what do you think happened to the baby? And she has no idea.
The only thing Amber remembers is that the baby seemed a bit congested. She also recalls taking a prescribed painkiller right before bed to ease the lingering pain from delivery.
I always make sure she would sleep before I would go to sleep because I know as soon as I take the pill, I was out.
The next thing she remembers is waking to find Tamara dead beside her.
So she said she didn't hear the baby breathing. She rolled over and found the baby in the condition that it was in.
I had to keep telling them I didn't do that. I didn't do that. It's like a broken record. I just felt like I had to keep saying it, saying it, and saying it.
But Detective Fuller isn't buying it.
I told her, it's pretty cut and dry. I've been doing this a long time, and I've seen a lot of crime scenes, and I've seen a lot of wounds and whatnot. And these wounds are definitely consistent with your fingernails. So I told her, well, okay, well, I'm going to take your fingernails. And we're going to have them checked for blood or tissue.
Detective Fuller photographs and clips her fingernails, then sends them to the lab, confident that the forensics investigator will find evidence linking Amber to her daughter's death.
In my mind, the fingernails were going to get to forensics. They were going to call me back and say, get a warrant.
But it will take 4 days to get the lab results. Until then, he has no choice but to let her go. While the lab is processing Amber's fingernail swabs, Tamara's tiny body arrives at the Bailey County morgue. Dr. Joseph Prallo is the forensic pathologist, entrusted to answer the pressing question on everyone's mind. Did Amber kill her baby?
We don't want to ever miss a homicide because that would prevent justice from being served.
With utmost delicacy, Dr. Prallo starts unzipping the tiny body bag.
The next thing I did was then to examine the injuries on this baby very closely. The most striking feature was that there was a decent amount of dried blood on the baby's face. I next washed the dried blood away from the wounds, and I was able to actually get a really good view of the injuries that we were dealing with. The police were concerned that the mother's fingernails may have produced these injuries.
But as Dr. Prallo scrutinizes the baby's wounds, he makes an unexpected discovery.
Many of them had kind of a V-shaped pattern or a W or M-shaped pattern to them.
It's a pattern that Dr. Prallo recognizes from previous autopsies.
It was at that moment that I realized that the wounds on the face were not caused by fingernails.
In fact, he now believes that the bloody injuries were inflicted by something far more disturbing.
When I realized this, I then kind of had to step back and think about it, and I called the police.